the NBA championship odds here. I'll put on the screen real quick. For next year, 2027 championship odds. If this thing come on real quick, come on. There we go. So right now, here are the current odds now. So you have the Celtics, Spurs are the favorites at plus 250. Also, the Thunder, same number at plus 250. The Celtics at 3 at plus 550. The Knicks plus 700. And then there's a massive drop off with the Pacers at plus. Is that 28 or 25? That's 25, right? Can't see that.
Pacers are plus 2,800.
2,800. Yeah, I was right. 2,800. Nuggets also 2,800. That's a little surprise. The Timberwolves are plus 3,000. Lakers plus 3,000. Pistons plus 3,000. Cavaliers plus 3,000. Look, these numbers will adjust as we get into free agency and trades and all this stuff. Because I think LeBron goes to Cleveland, and if he goes to Cleveland, then the numbers improve. I think drastically. Be honest with you, Lakers might stabilize at 3,000 because of LeBron leaving, and they might lose Austin Reeves. We'll get that in a second. Look at these odds. What stands out to you?
I mean, nothing really stands out to me because I don't know what these teams are going to look like in 3 weeks. So I mean, it's hard for me to say the Celtics at plus 550. Like if they trade Jaylen Brown and wind up with Giannis and pieces, I mean, they also have a $27 million trade exception. So I mean, the Celtics can just absorb like a Miles Turner or whatever into their cap space essentially, given that trade exception. So I mean, like the Celtics could look like a totally different team, or do they wind up with a Trey Murphy and a Giannis, come 3 weeks from that? I don't know the answer to those questions, so it's hard for me to say like, oh, one team's overvalued, one team's undervalued. I mean, look, maybe the Pacers go out and get Trey Murphy and they give up their remaining assets for him, and now all of a sudden, they look to me just as good as the Celtics do. So I just don't know given how the draft and the offseason has to play out. But I mean, I would say that those numbers probably are pretty accurate. I mean, I guess if the Celtics were to stay as they are, which I don't think that they will, but I think that if they stayed with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and Pritchard and White and all those guys, like, yeah, I mean, I would put them right up there with the Knicks for next year. And Spurs Thunder, I don't see either one of those teams going anywhere. I mean, if I had to bet now, I'd probably take the Thunder. But, that's
really over the Spurs?
Yeah.
Why?
Because that series went 7 games and Jalen Williams basically didn't play. And you could make an argument that you're taking an all-NBA player out of the series. AJ Mitchell didn't play either. Like, both those guys will be playing next year.
That part I agree with you on, but I also think the San Antonio Spurs are going to elevate as a team.
Yes.
Next year.
But again, I also need to know what their roster looks like. Like, if the Spurs bring back the same exact team and the Thunder go out and add a guy and they're getting AJ Mitchell and Jalen Williams back healthy, that might change my prediction. So I mean, again, it's hard to look at those numbers now and have a prediction not knowing what those rosters are going to look like. I mean, the only roster that we know there, the Knicks are going to be the same exact team, probably for
that's true. Which is
for the next 2 years.
2 years, right? Which is surprising to me why they're behind Boston, because they did beat Boston a year ago. I don't understand why they are behind Boston if they're the same exact team. Boston. Now, I think maybe Vegas assumes that they're going to get a piece, whether it be Giannis or another important piece, and that's why they're ahead of New York. But I'm a little surprised by this. Like if I'm betting, man, I might put a little flyer on New York just because. Why not? Why not?
I think that Vegas is baking in that the Celtics are going to get Giannis in that number.
That's what I'm thinking also too. Exactly my point.
Because if they thought that the Heat were going to get Giannis, the Heat would probably be at plus 3,000 right there with.
Yep, I agree with 100%. It's a great point.
Cavs and the Pistons. So
great with you. Yeah. Denver being this low, is that surprising to you?
Not really, just because they can't really move off of any of their players. Like, their roster is kind of set in stone, and Vegas is basically saying, like, you're relying on Aaron Gordon to stay healthy for an entire playoff run, and we don't think he can do it. And to be honest, I don't think he can do it either. And they also might lose Peyton Watson. I mean, he's the guy they want to keep, but in order to keep Peyton Watson, they're going to have to get rid of Cam Johnson or Christian Brown or whomever, and they don't really have the assets to get off of those players, because that's what it's going to take to move them. I mean, maybe Cam Johnson has a little more value, but and look, they could re-sign all these guys and just go into the second apron, but I just don't think that the Cronkies are going to do that, because historically they just haven't overspent on the Nuggets. I feel like that,
Jokic missed his window. that window, the 2 year window he had in 24 and 20, I mean 25, gone. Because
Yeah,
you're not being OKC, you're not being San Antonio. I'm not even sure they're better than New York at this point.
yeah, and I mean that's why you look at some of these teams. I mean, we said the same thing about the Celtics. Like, oh, they beat Dallas in 5, they win a title, and now everything's gravy for the next 5 years. And now we're talking about them moving on from Jaylen Brown, and they didn't win another title. So, uh, windows close very quickly. So
True.
again, a window can open, a window can close very quickly for any of the teams that are
The
on that.
the, the reason OKC and San Antonio is different from these other teams is that they're young. They're all young. They're all young. The other teams are a little bit older.
Well, and they also have all their assets. So I
Yep.
mean, they can go out and like the Thunder can do a consolidation trade where they can move an Aaron Wiggins
Yeah.
and a Hartenstein plus, a pick or two and go out and get like a hugely meaningful player like a Trey Murphy or whomever, whatever Presti decides that they need.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Denver does not have that flexibility. So that's I think why Denver is as low as they are, and San Antonio and Oklahoma City are as high. But also like they're young and they're homegrown. So I mean, it's not like they had to give up assets to get those guys, which leads to why they have assets to tweak around the margins in the first place. So
right. What do you make of the Giannis and Boston rumors now out of nowhere? Because we've heard for the last month it's been putting fluid that Miami was the favorite to get Giannis, and all of a sudden, the last week or so, a lot of little Boston chatter. And most notably Jaylen Brown. What's your thoughts on that?
yeah, I mean it's hard to know whether that's just leverage talk. I mean
Yeah.
they might want Yakachonis from Miami. Miami might have the only offer on the table for all we know.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way Milwaukee is going to extract the maximum amount of value that they can is by letting them know that there's another suitor out there. And that other suitor, in theory, would be, that's Jaylen Brown is a better asset than, in theory, what they could get elsewhere. I mean, he's a, perennial all-star, an all-pro. Like, those guys aren't – Miami doesn't have that guy to give up. But what I would say about the Miami package that I do like is that you're not only getting another lottery pick this year, but I think that those picks from Miami, like in the future, are pretty valuable given Giannis's injury history, given
Okay.
Bam's age. If I'm Miami, I look at that and I'm like, okay, I'm going to gut my team basically. It's Wiggins, it's Powell, it's Giannis, it's Bam, it's Mitchell. Like, that's got to be it. Unless they can swing Wiggins for another guy. But I don't know.
Should Miami want Giannis?
I mean,
and I asked this because my brother, who also a hardcore Heat fan, said to me last night, I don't want Giannis because even if I get Giannis, okay, maybe you're a top 4 team in the East, but I'm not convinced you're better than New York, Boston, or even Indiana. And I said to him, you have a point there.
No, he's 100% right. I mean, if I'm Miami, like I know that there's very little patience to keep finishing in the play-in, but I don't know that given what you're going to have to give up, that this is going to move you as far as you think it's going to move you, because now you've got Giannis and Bam, 2 guys who are essentially non-shooters, and you're putting a lot of pressure on Powell and Wiggins to be really good again. And it's not like they can then go back to the well and say, oh, we're just going to trade 3 more picks and get the next star. Like, no, this is your team. So, this is your team for 3 or 4 years. And I don't know if that team is good enough necessarily, but, are they satisfied with constantly being in the play-in? So I mean, I don't know that Pat Riley has much patience for them being like a 9 seed every single year.
He might do it just to do something.
Yeah,
which I can understand to some degree, but I'm kind of with you also too. Like, I don't know if I want that. I don't know. And only that with Giannis too, it's a short window. We've harped over this for the last couple of years on the podcast. It's not that he's not good. It's just that his game will not age well. And now we're getting to that territory now where he's 32 years old.
He's 31 now, I believe.
Okay,
and he will be 30 next year.
Right. So he's not Kevin Durant.
History has not shown that guys who have been in the league for 14 years and that size and who've put up the numbers that he has are going to keep doing that. There's going to be a fall off. And the reason why there's not necessarily a fall off with Durant is because, as I've said many times, he can stand in the corner and shoot jumpers until he's 50.
Yep.
Giannis doesn't have that. He can't shoot
There you
free
go.
throws, can't shoot jumpers. I mean, like, look, can he shoot them? Sure, but he's not shooting them at a good enough clip where you feel good about it if you're Eric Spoelstra.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I mean, like, there are question marks that are going to come with a trade like that. And I mean, if you're Boston, like, you're shrinking your window like pretty substantially. And also, like, let's say you're Boston and you do make this trade. Like, you've got Tatum, who's coming off an Achilles injury, and Giannis, who's basically been hurt every year for the last 5 years. So I
Yeah.
mean, like, uh
My
that's
brother
a
said he'd rather take Jalen Brown than Giannis in Miami.
yeah, and I mean, look, to be fair, there's not like a huge age difference between those two guys. So I mean, it's not as if one guy's 25 and the other's 33. So I mean, like, age wise, they're pretty similar. So I think the issue for Milwaukee would be uh, who can they flip Jalen Brown to, and how can they again extract the most assets? Because I don't think that he would fit their timeline if they're moving on from Giannis. Um, but again, the issue with all these guys is, their skill set and how it's going to age. I think that Jalen
Mm-hmm.
Brown has been better in terms of injuries, and I think you assume that he's going to play a few more games than Giannis will, given Giannis's injury history.
Right.
And if you're Boston and you trade Jalen Brown, again, you have constantly injured Giannis and Tatum. Who knows? And now you've just shrunk your window massively. You've given up all your assets, and now, yeah, you have Tatum and Giannis, and that sounds great on paper. I mean, they're like the match made in heaven, given their size and skill sets. But if one of them gets hurt, like, you're shot. So it's an interesting dilemma that they're in. But again, I also don't know that it's not just leverage plays by Milwaukee to try and get more out of the Heat. And if you're the Heat and you're giving up Jonas and you're giving up Ware, like, that's a lot to give up for a guy who you're only going
Yeah.
to get for 2 years,
Exactly.
and you're giving up the 13th pick, and you're
That's my
giving up
point. That's
picks.
my point.
Yeah.
Exactly. I also want to look. Assume this is true. I want the Celtics to be a little too reactive because of the playoff failure with the Jalen Brown thing, or maybe to see if Jalen Brown's value is high as they're ever going to be now because of what he did this year. I don't
And
know.
also part of that could be, I mean, there was scuttlebutt after the year that Jalen Brown, like, when he was saying, "Oh, this is the best year of my career, the most fun I've ever
Oh
had."
yeah, yep, that too.
So I mean, like, does Jalen Brown want out? Just because Shams didn't report that there's a trade request, like, he might want his own team. He might, maybe he'd rather go to Atlanta and be the guy there, and play next to Jalen Johnson, and everybody look at him as the 1A and Johnson as the 1B, and and he's from Atlanta. So I mean, that might just be a preference of his.
Keep on the Hawks.
Yeah,
Keep on the
yeah.
Hawks.
Well, it's either going to be the Hawks or the Trailblazers, because it's either way. Something here has to be attractive to Milwaukee for any of these deals to get done, and they would go to the Trailblazers because the Trailblazers have their picks from the Dame deal. So I mean, they would get their own pick back and 2 swaps, so they basically get control of 3 first-round picks if they make that deal with Portland. And with Atlanta, they could get the 8th pick in the draft, and Atlanta's still got a lot of other picks too. So, both those teams have assets that I could see being enticing to Milwaukee. But again, is that deal really out there, or is it just Milwaukee trying to get more out of Miami, and Miami's got the only deal out there, and they just want to make sure that they pay the max amount? I don't know.
Right. One more thing to tell you here, quickly.